So here we are at the center of the world, which is in Felicity, California. They've got a little museum shop inside. You can pay to go inside. I chose not to. I mean, cool, but not that cool. We're coming up here to the Yuma Territorial Prison State Historic Park. Looks pretty cool. They want me to park over there. I guess I will. All right, guys, here we are at the Yuma Territorial Prison State Park. We're gonna head on over here and take a look, see what it has to offer. If you can hear that thumping, that's because I'm actually walking with a cane. My knee's a bit messed up, but it'll be okay. I don't think I'm gonna be doing most of the hiking I was planning to do on this trip, though. As we're approaching the entrance here, I guess that's like a watchtower thing, maybe? I'm not going to speculate. We'll find out when we get in there. So just as we come in the entrance, we have this overview of the Yuma East wetlands, kind of showing what the Colorado River looked like before the dams. And yeah, it's actually a pretty nice view out that way. Doesn't look very wet anymore though. Looks like the Colorado River is now a canal that runs underground. All right, let's see what else we've got before we even get to the entrance. Some more info about the wetlands. Looks like there might be a bike path down there, perhaps. It's really quite a pretty facility. This is a fee area. So $4 to $8, and all the reviews that I've seen online seem to make it look like it's a really worthwhile visit.
Of a cage, 10 foot, 5 foot. It would have been 5 foot tall. You had 14 guys in there at one time. Wow. You were stripped down to your undershorts and you were still chained down.
Wow.
There's a bull rings on each side, so a chain went across. You had a free ankle bracelet that hooked up to that. Depending what you did, refuse and obeyed, usually a few hours, and over 100 days being the longest stay in there. But like I said, no facility, no nothing. That wasn't considered inhumane. Feeding them lobster was considered inhumane. Women's cells to the right, new yard to the left. When you're done back there, come up here, hit up the guard tower, which you saw on the left coming in. But while you're up there, kind of look southeast. You want to see what's left of the cemetery. And then this will be your exit when you're all ready to leave.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
So enjoy prison.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess there really are some wetlands. I can see some water down there now. And got a cool looking rail bridge over here with a train going across it. So that's all good. So during his 1774 exploratory trip, Anza made friends with Chief something I can't pronounce. Anza called him Palma of the Kekon Indians, probably got that wrong too, who controlled the river crossing. The Kekons welcomed the 1775 colonizing expedition and supplied beans, grain, and a feast of watermelons to the weary travelers. The expedition crossed on November 30th, where the Colorado River was relatively shallow, 300 to 400 yards wide, and running in 3 channels past 2 islands. Many of the men waited, and the taller horses being reserved for women and children. Anza positioned 10 men on the downstream side to rescue anyone who should fall. 1 man carrying a child did go down, but was soon rescued. The crossing was otherwise made without mishap. The Anza expedition arrived at the Colorado River on November 28, 1775. The exact crossing site is unknown because flooding periodically altered the river courses and the confluence of the Gila and Colorado rivers. We do know they crossed the Gila River a few miles to the east of here and camped between the 2 rivers. After 2 days' rest, they crossed the Colorado River, camped, and then moved on to camp near Chief Palma's village. At Chief Palma's request in 1775, Anza left Father Garces and Exarch to establish missions in the area. By 1780, 2 colonies of soldiers, settlers, and missionaries had been established, but they were not well supported by Spanish authorities. In 1781, 40 families of settlers, their soldier escort, and livestock used the crossing on their way to establish the Pueblo of Los Angeles and a presidio at Santa Barbara. Faced with starvation after Spanish herds ruined their crops, and angered by unfulfilled Spanish promises, the Kekens revolted. The remaining Spanish settlers, soldiers, and priests, including Garces, were killed or taken prisoner. The Spaniards had not heeded Anza's warning of the need for good relations with the Kekens. His route was abandoned during the rest of the Spanish colonial period. It later became part of the routes of the Mormon Battalion, the Butterfield Overland Mail, and the southern route for 49ers seeking their fortunes in California. Pretty interesting. And I've been seeing signs for this, the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail. So while the American Revolution brewed on the Atlantic coast, Spain expanded its New World Empire to protect California against the British and the Russians. In 1774, Juan Bautista de Anza, commander of the Royal Presidio of Tubac, successfully explored an overland route from Sonora, Mexico into Alta or Upper California. This route made possible the transport of livestock, goods, and people to sustain the new settlements. Anza was authorized to lead a 1775-76 expedition to settle the port of San Francisco. Volunteer soldiers, settlers came from as far south as Culiacan. Livestock, equipment, supplies, and expedition members were gathered at Horcasitas and finally at Tubac. From there they would travel 1,000 miles on foot, horseback, burro, and mule to their destination. A variety of people made the trip, soldiers and their families, interpreters, priests, packers, cowboys, and cooks, as well as nearly 1,000 head of livestock. At journey's end, 198 people, over a third of them children under 12, remained in Alta California to build the Presidio and missions of San Francisco and other communities. They, and others using the trail established by Anza, began the settlements of San Jose and Los Angeles and stamped California with the language and customs of their New World Hispanic culture. So there is a pretty good view of the Colorado River down there and the wetlands. You can kind of see the island over there that they were talking about. And across the Colorado River here is Indian Hill, the site of La Purísima Concepcion Mission. Built in 1780 by Spanish explorers, it was destroyed in 1781 when native Kekens revolted, killing all European males. Nothing is left of that structure. Today you see the St. Thomas Mission, built in 1922, which serves the Keken Indian Nation. Behind the mission is Fort Yuma. It was established in 1852 to protect settlers, border survey crews, and gold miners on their way to boom or bust in California gold fields. So this is where the old ferry crossing was at the junction of the Gila and Colorado rivers, only natural ford on the southern trail to the Pacific. So the gray bridge over here, finished in 1915, is the ocean-to-ocean highway bridge. This was the final link in a highway stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast. Its presence meant travelers no longer had to wait for the ferry to cross the Colorado River. And the first railroad bridge crossing the Colorado River was a low pivot bridge built in the floodplain below a prison hill. It would swing open for passage of steamboats and serve the railroad until 1923, when the Black Railroad Bridge that we're looking at today was built. Approximately 1/3 of the prison was demolished to make way for the present bridge and its foundations. Just keep looking. So here's a view of the prison from across the river behind me. Pump station down below on the riverbank, guards quarters, main guard tower, which we're going to go up in, superintendent's house, stables, guard tower on a wall, sally port, superintendent's house, another guard tower, and another guard tower on a wall. I'm walking really slow, but through the magic of editing, we're going to get over to the Territorial Prison in about 10 seconds or so. So it started in 1881 with water reservoir being constructed, in 1875 with the prison being authorized. Opened in 1876. First convict was William Hall. First female convict in 1878 was Lizzie Gallagher, and the first escape by J. Lewis. Then they did the water reservoir construction. 1882 they built the big guard tower. 1884 they had electricity come in. 1885 Sally Port built and the hospital was established. In 1887 they had a Gates riot. 4 convicts dead, 1 wounded. 1889 female convict Manuela Fimbres gives birth to baby boy Luis in prison. 1891 got women's cells built. 93 was a library. 94 dark cell dug out of south wall. 99 Pearl Hart sentenced to 5 years for robbery. 1900 the new yard opens. 1910 Yuma High School at prison until 1914. I guess they didn't have a high school building for that. 1939 squatters were evicted. 1940 the museum was built on the site of the mess hall with New Deal funds, and the city operated it as a museum until 1960. Guard tower was used in WW2 for spotting. 1961 it became the 3rd state park. And in 2010, budget crisis threatens closure of state park. Yuma communities chain gangs raise funds to save the park. So there you go. Pretty big history here. So this would have been the guardhouse. And the gates are pretty big and impressive. Iron bars riveted together. I would think that would be fairly difficult to break out of. So here's like a 3D layout of the whole property. Alright, we're going to check out some of the famous prisoners here. Got a lot of artifacts and stuff to check out. Oh, look, you can do mugshots via perfect. How's that work? Alright, here we have the bad girls of the Old West. Looks like there were quite a few of them. I could probably spend a lot of time looking at the exhibits inside of the museum, but I want to get out here and see the cell block area. And since I am having some difficulty walking, I figure I better do this while I can. So here we've got the prison bell, cast in 1875. Came out of California, San Francisco, California. Original purpose was to sound an alarm of escapes. Once the prison closed, the bell sat silent until 1914 when the bell was purchased by the Somerton Baptist Church. For the next 23 years, the bell would sound joy and praise, juxtaposing its original purpose. In 1937, Reverend Lloyd D. Wells felt it was time that the bell be preserved and ultimately returned to its original location. Fortunately, Arizona State Parks purchased the bell to make it a part of the prison museum. So let's take a look at what these cells actually look like. Not real big. And it looks like they come in on opposing sides.
Pictures you wanted some?
Pictures. So this is the incorrigible ward. In 1904, it was constructed consisting of 5 steel cages on this site. Total budget for the building, including steel cages, corrugated iron roofing, and lumber, was $500. Approximately 4,000 adobe bricks, manufactured by prisoners, were used in the construction of the cell house. The steel cages were ordered from the Champion Iron Company of Kenton, Ohio. The cells were later moved to Florence when the new prison was built. Since then, 4 of the 5 doors have been returned. The locking mechanism is on display in the museum. The incorrigible ward. I guess those are the guys that are really misbehaving. Sounds like we got another train. Women prisoners meant trouble in River City. Women over 30 years. So it looks like this is where they kept the women. Doesn't look like all that comfortable a place to hang out. I am a bit surprised to see the guitar though, and a coffee cup, so maybe not too bad. Let's head down this way for the infirmary. Let's see what that looks like. Well, we got some modern work lights in there, which were probably not part of the original infirmary. A couple of beds, nightstand. Aside from the fact that it's obviously a prison cell, pretty standard infirmary stuff, I would think. This is a tool storage room in which they have stored a bunch of tools. Rakes and shovels and wheelbarrows, stuff like that. And here we have a dark cell. Let's see how dark it is. Oh, interesting. It's pretty dark. There is a door that closes. And this is another set of iron bars on the ground, which I guess the prisoners were chained to, maybe? And this is dark enough over here that I can barely make out the wall. You probably can't make it out at all. Interesting. They're not telling us what that one is. But here's the library. Well, this seems, I don't know, nice and bright and airy and open. I guess this was about the extent of it though, based on what the picture looks like. And another entryway over there. Caution, low entrance. Well, I'm short, not a big deal. Oh, this looks like a bunch more cells. Ah, this is the new yard, constructed in 1900 to help relieve overcrowding. Entrance to the library was closed and the first 4 cells were made from the library excavation in the south bank. 8 more cells were dug into the east side of the same bank. And these cells were used to separate and isolate unruly prisoners before the incorrigible ward was built. Near the center of the 119-foot by 84-foot exercise yard was a building referred to as the bunkhouse, and it was used to house consumptive patients. That would be tuberculosis for those of us in modern times. After the last prisoners were transferred to Florence in September 15, 1909, the facilities had several interesting uses. 5 of the areas, including the hospital, were utilized for the Yuma High School from 1910 until 1914. Today, the Yuma High School's athletic teams are still called the Yuma Criminals, or Crims. The empty cells provided free lodging for hobos riding the freights in the 1920s and sheltered many homeless families during the Depression. Well, it looks like we've got an open cell down there we can look at, so. So, escape artists. But really, I mean, 2 people in a cell this size. It's a pretty small space to be in. Wow. All right, let's head down to the other part of the cell block. Yeah, double doors, and it's...
Hey, I'm speaking to you. Respect. Which you didn't deserve anyways. Then I got into it with another prisoner. Howard Withrow was his name. Cut him across the neck with a knife I stole. Just missed his jugular vein. Too bad. Then I tried to escape. I'll let Superintendent Gates think that I've reformed. Stupid. Whatever it takes to get out of here.
Pretty cool to get the stories.
You're looking at it.
And then on this side, we've got, I guess, 2 separate cells being separated by another round of iron bars. Yeah, that's pretty small.
Who's in there? You wanna look down there? Okay.
I feel I will be well equipped.
Sir, my name is William Jordan Flake. I may be a prisoner in this institution, but I am no criminal. A prisoner of conscience on a warrant of unlawful plural marriage. Yes, in keeping with the teaching of my religion, I married Lucy, and with Lucy's full and free consent, I married my second wife, Prudence. At my trial, I refused to recognize the validity of this law. I called it a mockery, a travesty on justice. But as a good American, I accepted the 6-month sentence. It's not been bad. Superintendent Ingalls recognized me as a leader of men and asked me to help out with some of the more difficult prisoners. I shall do my time and then go back and live my life as I see fit.
Polygamy. Wow. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 6 people, and then the separating gate and 6 more. This is a really small place to have 6 people in. This is funny. R.L. McDonald was a Phoenix school superintendent who was sentenced to prison for the crime of forgery. Impressed with his credentials, prison officials asked him to manage the prisoner's earnings. And after his release, it was discovered that he had walked off with $130 of the prisoner's money. Go figure. And look back here, across the back wall, we've got the chain gang. Very interesting. Well, we're going to skip the main guard tower because it's not handicap accessible. And I don't think I can handle all those steps. So, not on this visit. But I got to see a lot of really cool stuff. I'd highly recommend this place if you want to come check it out. And after a long day of exploring, here's where I wound up for the evening. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry about the shakiness. I discovered just how hard it is to use a cane and hold a selfie stick steady. I'll get better. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.